spies. Y'all are a bunch of spies. Hello, Mossad. We know this is for Mossad to spy, right? On me. Alright. I'm just trying to talk to you all, but they're listening. Alright, Mago session 107, I believe. 107. 107. Try to block out the sounds. 107. I had matcha, perilla oil, ginseng. Followed that up with a little bit of, I did 1 gram of 1 gram of psilocybin mushrooms. 1 gram of psilocybin. Dehydrated. And 1 puff of Mago. With magic mushroom, ayahuasca, my body is very movement oriented. My body becomes more feminine, not effeminate, but feminine. It likes to move fluidly. Or in a circle. So this could be a circle as well. I find my hands doing this often in ayahuasca. And it's a way to move in a fluid way. It's like an ocean wave, right? My fingers are making an ocean wave. If you ever go to a sporting event in the US, they always want to do a crowd wave where everybody woo in a synchronous way, and it's fun. It's fluid. And in that way, I say it's effeminate because you can see a lot of LGBT men do this hand motion as well. I see them do it. Perhaps in a more zesty or effeminate way. They go like this. Yeah, that's what they do. But myself, I find myself wanting to move more fluidly because fluidity, that's what Taoism is all about, being like water. Taoism is not a book you should read, it's just more of a go and study a river for decades and you'll understand the universe. I don't have a river, but I look around me and I see what is the most water-like animal there is that doesn't live in the water. Right, I could go look at fish in the water, but I want to look at an animal that's on land that is the most fluid water-like animal there is, and that's the cat. We all know a cat is the king of fluidity. So much so that people assume anyone that has a cat is effeminate or gay. I've had a cat for over 17 years now. My oldest cat is about 17, and I used to have a girlfriend that was like, "Why do you have a cat? That's very gay." I'm supposed to have like a pit bull, pitbully, as they might say in Brazil. Cachorro grande. Brisa called me a cachorro during sex one time. I was like, what the fuck? That's disrespectful. I'm a man. I guess it was like her version of sex talk. But I did not appreciate it. Being, right? What is it? It's dehumanizing. But yeah, I was just thinking about how my friends called the police on me this past week. They tried to have me sent to prison here in Brazil, have my freedom taken away for who knows how long. Simply because of words. Like I've never myself tried to have someone arrested or call the police on someone because of their words. And I was thinking about it, how I've received a lot of words, hateful towards me based on my Asian ethnicity. I've received a lot of words that are lies about me. I'm an average sized Asian. I'm an average sized Asian, Oriental, I would rather call it. I'm an average sized chopstick user out of the 2 billion, 3 billion chopstick users on the planet. I'm average sized. There are a billion or so taller than me, bigger than me, and there are a billion so chopstick users that are smaller than me. I take no pride nor shame in my body. That my parents' genetics created. But anyhow, I've received a lot of hate. And hate saying I have a small dick. They've never even seen my dick. I've been forced to wear clothes all the time. And even I remember one time, I don't know if my childhood friends are ever gonna watch this, Stephen, Jason, and Eric. We became friends with these white kids. And these white kids were really spats. I don't know if they're psychopaths because of their skin color. I have no idea. I'm not saying anything. But these two white kids were psychopaths. They liked to inflict pain and suffering on others. Bullies, I guess you would call them. And I'm not calling all white people bullies of the world, even though if I wanted to, I could go look at the last 500 years or ask AI and go look at who was being bullied the last 500 years. Who was being bullied were Africans, Asians, indigenous Americans. And then, as always, a victim, someone who's being bullied, always has the opposite. Someone doing the bullying. The bully. The victim has a victimizer. In the last 500 years, who has that been? And apparently, it's hateful to look at that truth. And so, when I speak the truth about who has been bullied and who has been the bully, the victim, who is the victim and who is the victimizer, I hear a lot of lies to counter my truth. Like the obvious truth that we can all look around and see is there's a lot of descendants of Africa who are very poor. No money. And there's a lot of people that say, oh, it's because they are not smart. I don't say that. There's people that say that. People who are not a recent descendant, recent being within the last 3-4 generations, right? After 4 generations, it starts to get a little, okay, you're like 10% this, you're 10% that. I don't want to get into that. But recent, we have close to 50% ancestry from a certain continent. People who are not from the African continent say the Africans' descendants don't have some sort of brain count, the brain cells for it, and I think that's a bunch of bullshit and lies. What I think is this: those Black African communities, countries, neighborhoods, towns, cities, regions, whatever, they all have religions. That's why they're not smart. That's why they're constantly fighting with each other. That's why they're constantly warring. That's why they're constantly raping women and children. They're abusing children. It's a common theme in religions that believe in Adam and Eve. They believe God created the entire planet working as a slave to create the entire universe in 6 days. The idea that God had to work 6 days in a row to create the universe. And in doing so, on the 7th day, he was allowed to relax and not work as a slave. So these religions, I call them cults, slavery cults. They're cults that reinforce that even God is a slave that has to work for 6 days straight before getting a day off from work. That to me is ridiculous. That gets taught to children, and then those children are no longer free thinkers. It circumcises their brains. It mutilates their brains. Just like I am mutilated at birth, my parents chose me circumcised because this book says it's holy, and they create a bunch of lies currently to say it. Anyways, so my friends called the police on me, or they submitted everything I've said in the last 5 years. They've screen captured all my posts online. They're basically acting like my spies. And I knew they would one day, because just talking to them, they are pro-white. Like what she's told me was, she said, I am romanticizing, I am elevating indigenous people. When I say indigenous people without religions were better, smarter, free-thinking people. And she says, no, there's lots of grape in indigenous people. And she is an indigenous descendant who married a man. And she disagrees with my truth that indigenous people are better people, more intelligent people, people that don't grape and destroy nature. And ultimately she disagrees with that. And after several years of constantly me telling the truth, me researching research, she finally had enough. I finally had enough. And we argued really hard. And she called me an anti-Semite, anti-white, anti-Semite, anti-Christian, anti-Jew. Now think about that. Let's look at anti-Semitism. Certain countries have made it a law against being anti-Semitic. What is anti-Semitism? Anti-Semitism is criticism. And I realized they were trying to send me to prison for criticism that I made. We all have ancestors that have done terrible things in the past. We all have the right to speak and reveal the truth about all the crimes and worst things our ancestors have done to destroy the planet and to create children of war such that we have today. We have billions of children being taught to love war. They are taught it from watching media, movies, television, Marvel movies. Somehow I escaped it, the brainwashing. I've always called myself a prophet. Even at a young age, I've always been able to see behind the facade. I can see whether a person has a soul or not. Some people, their soul is completely they're just walking zombies, unfortunately. Oh. Anyways, my friends ended up not following through with the police action. But I want to go ask them for their report that they were going to submit because they created the report, right? I want to see what my past self had said that warrants me being put in prison. Takes away my ability to work and feed myself. Put myself into a system where I have to depend on a system in the city to give me slave food and basically turn me into a slave. All right, that's this prison system is a slavery system where you have a small bed, you live in small quarters, You wake up and you have to work for pennies. So many of our corporations, so much of our food, you don't even realize it's being made by prison workers. All the cardboard boxes, all the bottles. Anyways, anti-Semitism. What is anti-Semitism? It is the creation of the idea that certain people are not allowed to be criticized. That's it. 50 years ago in the US, they created the FBI and the CIA, or 70 years ago, to enforce the idea that Jews and their white servants, their top workers, Jews and their enforcers are not allowed to be criticized. Jews and the police. The police and the militaries that they have to be slave masters. We're all, if you don't realize, we're all slaves, forced to pay taxes, insurance, and rent. And all, you don't realize it, but it's all going to 6,000 or 7,000 families that have been existing since they started writing books. All right? So that's like close to 2,000 years. Before that, they had scrolls and, in Egypt, but those scrolls only last like 10 years, 20 years before they disintegrate like anything, right? So you could only write on stone tablets to make it last, but who's going to write a whole book on stone, right? But then Asians created paper that could last 100 years or more. And so they took that technology, this was about 2,000 years ago, and made the first religious book, the Torah, the Bible, the Old Testament, Genesis. In the beginning, there was God who created the earth in 6 days, showing that even God is a slave that has to work 6 days and then rest after first working 6 days. That is your life. Work 6 days, rest. Work 6 days, 1 day rest. God even is a slave to that. So they teach this all over the world. We have the week. The week is made up. It is anti-Semitic for me to talk about this, because then I have to criticize who created this fake idea of time, where time is money for slave masters to get us working 6 days a week. There is no week. There is no 7-day week except because of the Jews creating the Old Testament idea of God that is a slave himself to 6 days of work to create the universe in order to rest on the 7th day. So anyone who believes this has their brain mutilated. Their brain doesn't work right. And for me to criticize and say, hey, look, this is a poisonous belief that you have. And it makes you a bad person because it makes you think you're smarter, better. Separates you from the true belief of time that, you know what, the only time we have is the moon cycle. And if we take care of each other and we take care of nature, we wouldn't have to work at all. If we would grow fruit trees and all the plants that we needed to build, like I love bamboo, man. Just touching it, it just has a vibrational I want my floors to be made of 50,000 of these. I just want to walk on bamboo. Of course, it's kind of thick for flooring, but sleeping on a bamboo mat in Korea is so refreshing. But anyways, yeah, like, I don't want to live in a concrete and glass city like New York. Jew paradise. Gangsta's paradise. And that's why I'm here in Brazil, where I can learn the truth about indigenous people that don't believe in the Adam and Eve God. The idea that we're slaves and we have to go to war to conquer land and we have to conquer nature. And support the idea that some people are above criticism. If you criticize a certain people, you will go to jail. That's what my friends tried to have me arrested for. They said, you are criticizing the people that are not allowed to be criticized. Right? I've been criticized for being Asian since childhood. I guess that is allowed. People are allowed to criticize black people and brown people, indigenous people, all they want. Nobody ever goes to jail for criticizing black, brown, or as I call myself, golden. My skin is golden. Yo tenho pele de ouro. Não é preto, não é branco. Quando pega sol, eu tenho cor de ouro. Eu sou orgulhoso de cor de eu quando eu pega sol. porque eu orgulhoso? Porque tem muitos asiáticos agora com mente mutilated. Eles mentes pega tóxico de branco é superior. Eles olhando filmes sobre Brad Pitt, para mim mais Richard Gere, e mais Richard Gere branco, Pretty Woman, walking down the street com homem branco. E agora, muitos asiáticos é prisão de ódio sol. Eles não saem para pegar sol porque eles vão ficar mais ou menos branco. Eles querem ser branco, como branco, usando roupas como branco, tem pele como branco, tentando muito para chegar branco, porque eles têm tóxico dentro deles cabeça. E se você vai para a Coreia e busca todas lojas buscando roupas que tem letras coreano, você não vai encontrar. Todo é letras de inglês. Mesmo você está na Georgia ou North Dakota, qualquer lugar nos Estados Unidos, Coreia do Sul é Estados Unidos, você não vai encontrar nada para comprar camisas, roupas com letras coreanas lá agora. E todas as pessoas estão colocando todas roupas agora para não pegar sol. Então, tem orgulhoso dessa pele que fica sol muito e chega a cor de ouro. Amarillo não. Amarillo é nada para tem pele como gallinos. Amarillo. Mas tem cor de ouro. Brilha. Quase laranja. Esse. Então. I just went into a Portuguese rant, I guess. For some reason, I went to Portuguese, talking about how proud I am of my skin color. And it's not one that I'm born with. It's one that I have a connection to the sun with. When I get lots of sun, I become bright, healthy orange. But not like the fruit orange, more like golden. And so my skin color, fluidly, if I don't go outside for a few days, I'm not the same skin color anymore. I'm like a chameleon, a lizard, octopus that changes color. But when I getting sun every day for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9 days straight, I become a bright mahogany golden color. And I'm just saying, I have a right to be proud of that. It's healthy looking. When I look at myself, I'm like, whoa, I'm like glowing like gold. And for people to call me Asian, white, yellow, no. My skin color is gold when I'm in the sun. And for Koreans that look down on people who spend time in the sun, call them dirty. Koreans, you know this? They pay money to go to a bathhouse and they scrub off the linen. This is what they've learned to do due to Western colonization the last couple hundred years. And yeah, You can go and see all the people in a naked together, painfully trying to clean themselves of the fact that they are people who should be out in the sun. For them, they don't want to be people who are looked at like they should be out in the sun. People who are out in the sun are slaves in their mind. And I am here to say, fuck that. I'm here to say, fuck all slavery. I'm here to say God was not a slave either, who needed to work for 6 days to create everything. He's fucking God, not a slave for 6 days, who needs to work 6 days and then rest the seventh. God just creates the universe like this, with fun and love, and no need to rest, no need to work, labor 6 days straight. First day, this day, second day, this day, third day. What fucking bullshit your religion is. It's a fucking cult of lies, a cult of slavery. Alright, so these are the things I've said to my friends, who I call them friends because I would never want them to anything bad to happen to them, right? I'm trying to help them awaken to the truth. And they don't like it because it's painful or it goes against what they believe. They are privileged and wealthy, and they have a deep-seated hatred of the poor. They have a connection with the police, who are basically armed haters of the poor. They exist to punish the poor. And so it's actually the case that her sister is a police officer. And so she ran right ahead and sent the police my info, and they're gonna probably try to block my citizenship or something, probably throw me in prison or expel me for speaking this truth. That religions are slavery cult, teaching that certain people are not allowed to be criticized. And let's get this thing straight. Anti-Semitism, fuck y'all. Everybody deserves to be criticized. Equal opportunity criticism for everyone. There's no such thing as words that cannot be said about anyone. Anybody can say it. Understandably, a lot of people will say lies, right? Freedom of speech involves freedom of lying as well. So what? So you can, my whole life they tell me my Korean dick is smaller because I'm Korean. That's a lie. It's no smaller than Jews. Right? Right? I mean, come on. Ron Jeremy. His gut hangs out further, his stomach hangs out further than, right? The stomach, the fat hangs out further than the stick. So anyways, I am learning that, yeah, okay. I'm living around slaves who don't want to escape the slavery. I am living in a world of slaves where the slaves do not want to escape slavery. They want to live in a world of where they are part of the privileged slaves. And I am very close to going to prison for disagreeing with their slavery system. Very close to having friends send me to prison for threatening their perspective, that their religion that they believe in is enslaving them. Okay. Nobody is above criticism. We must fight against the idea that one people are above criticism. Every black, brown, gold, white, it's not even white. Everybody must criticize their ancestors because this world is being destroyed because of what their ancestors believed. And what did they believe? They believed that we are all slaves. They accepted the idea that we're slaves to just spend our entire life being slaves so that we can go to heaven after we die. You've been enslaved. God is not a slave and you are not a slave, and God is not a slave master of you, demanding that you be a worshiping slave. You disrespect God by believing you're a slave. Say that again slowly. You disrespect God by believing that you are a slave. You call God the creator of slavery if you believe you are a slave meant to serve God. A disgusting idea that your cult religion has created. It's fucking disgusting. Your God is fucking disgusting. Anyone who believes this, your brain is fucked up. You gotta wake up and fix your brain. Okay. I'm gonna go downtown and talk to Christians. Just talk with them. Last time I was with an old lady, she was nice. I think I basically ran into a wall with her when I was like, why do you believe God had to work 6 days? And I think she started to question, okay, maybe this book isn't 100% truth, because she was thinking that, as a 60, 70-year-old, that everything in the book is exactly true. Just never realized that the book was written by liars decades after Jesus. People who had never met Jesus wrote the book that they believe. And they believe Jesus said, yes, the Old Testament is true. Believe in it. That God is the God. And I am also God on earth. So believe in the old God, the slavery God, that works 6 days a week God. And I am, I'm your blank check escape from hell. Because now you're being invaded by a system that makes you do evil, that makes you focus on money. And now you're enslaved to a system that makes you complicit to evil. So now you need Jesus to, as long as you're team Jesus, 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 Jesus. Christ is King, Christ is King, Christ is King. Worshiping Jesus every week. That's your way out of going to hell for all the sins that you're a part of, complicit of. They're bombing babies and you don't pay attention to it. Look away. Just keep working, praying to Jesus, believing that you'll go to heaven. That's what Christianity is. But yeah, I guess I'll go. While I'm free to do so, right? Exercise my freedom to speak before the liars put me in prison. That's what the liars do. They can't deal with the truth, having conversations about the truth. So they use the police to put you in prison, or they have government agencies like CIA, Mossad, FBI. Assassinate. That's what liars do, and they don't understand that. They're not good people. They are not good people. I'm going to charge my phone. All right. See you, everybody. Any Jackie Chan comments here?